We're here with Armando Arias, aka Sonny Boy Arias, a columnist for Chicano Confidential. So I like to ask, where did Sonny Boy Arias come from?
I think when I was about 5 or 6 years old, my mother started calling me Sonny Boy. I'm not really sure why, but at that time there used to be a Sonny Boy root beer, and they said that I loved it, right? I used to drink Sonny Boy root beer all the time, and then the name just stuck. Everybody in the family, and even today at my old age, I'm over 100 years old now. People call me Sonny Boy, so it doesn't matter where I am, what I'm doing. If my mother's with me, I'm always Sonny Boy, right? Sonny Boy this, Sonny Boy that. And so my mother is a great storyteller. Okay, she tells all kinds of stories, and so I think I picked up on that. I love to hear her stories, and I love to tell stories. But I have to tell you, it's like everything else, you know. When you've got a pretty good imagination, you never know what's really going to strike you. You just never do. And the thing about my mother's stories is really interesting. She will tell a story. It could be 20 minutes long. She could take a 2-minute break. She'll come back. She'll tell the same story word for word. All right. And that's what people tell me. Right. And so, I mean, but I want you to get it. Look, when I go into the Sonny Boy mode, which is so in social psychology, we'll call it your second self, your second self. And you know what I mean, especially for people who write a lot online or go to games like Second Life or Fortnite, you know that you're going into another mode, right? But when I go in that mode, it helps me write. It helps me be a literary person. And to tell you the truth, I think I've had this literary person locked up for many, many years because once he broke out, boy, he started to. I've got over 40 stories on Somos escrito, right? And I really encourage you to see them because it's sort of in the spirit of Antonio Jose Berciaga, right? Tony was my friend, and Tony could tell stories. I mean, he could tell stories all night long, and I just love to hear his stories.
That's something about Tony, that he was an artist. He worked at Stanford for many years. He lived in Monterey, I guess, right?
He lived on the Carmel Highlands, right on the cliffs in
Right.
Carmel.
Right. And he unfortunately died many, many years ago, but he was a friend also. He was a good friend of mine.
So so it doesn't matter where I am or what I'm doing. If I remain open with looking out at life with this sort of humor that Tony, somewhere between Cheech Marin and Tony Berciaga, there's Sonny Boy Arias at work here, and things strike me, and I just start thinking, and I start laughing to myself, and then pretty soon I'm taking notes and I'm writing stories down, and I have to tell you, I tell them, and I'll tell you right up front, they're true stories with authentic lives. And you got to figure out what's what. But for the most part, my stories are about 90% true. I mean, I'll just tell you that much up front too. They're like 90% true, But I'm not going to sit here and measure maybe I should put a percentage on every story that I write. This one's 85% true, 90% true. But the fact is that I've been unleashed now with Somos escrito. It's really been exciting, but at the same time, I think I have important points to make. Because I've got categories about higher education. I've got categories about being in prison. I got categories about just everyday life kinds of things. Yeah, it's a lot of fun for me, and I never know when Sonny Boy is gonna rise up and tickle me.
Right.
Well, thank you very much for the explanation. Yeah.
I'm starting to feel a little bit Sonny Boy like right now. Uh-oh, watch out.
It's a genie that's been let out of the bottle. We can't put it back in.
I tell you, it's a little bit like a double-edged sword.
True.
Because you want to keep writing and you don't have enough to finish a story, you think, and then, or you've got, part of my problem in general has been I have too much to say,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been part of the problem.
Well, it's interesting, Cayo, that you virtually mix science, all the social science that you know, and it really informs your view of the world, basically. And so I think you can look at stuff that say an ordinary person, whatever that is, let's say a different person looks at something, and you look at it entirely differently, which is what I think a writer does anyway, you know.
Yeah, a friend of mine wrote a book, and the title is "Amusing Ourselves to Death," and that's the way I kind of see it, and that's why I stick with the label Chicano, and I stick with Chicanismo because that's where I'm coming from. You know, my life as a Chicano. That's basically where Sonny Boy is coming from. You know, that's how I've experienced the world, and that's how I talk about it. You know, so it's a lens, the lens to look through. You know, and to a large extent, it's kind of like when I wrote Theorizing Cesar Chavez. You know, there was one part of me that said, like, when you see the pictures on the cover of the book, the cover of this book is beautiful. It's just beautiful. And in my opinion, the middle, there's 3 selves of Cesar Chavez. There's 3 versions of them, los tres mismos, right? On one side is the younger Chavez when he was at the height of the movement. In the middle Chavez, it's what he looked like when he died. And one of the best depictions, I think, of Cesar Chavez ever. And then off to the other side is Cesar Chavez, a lot older, wearing a white coat. And that, you know, like I said, that's where I got the idea, you know. Let's give Cesar Chavez a PhD in science and ask him to critically examine the STEM fields.
Excellent.